Hi. Alright, so in my last video I made a belt grinder, which is a big upgrade from what I had before. However, it still takes a long time to thin down hardened blades while keeping them flat as well. Oh, yeah, and it also takes skill, which I lack. So, in order to account for my incompetence and impatience, I am making a surface grinding attachment for the belt grinder. Ideally, this should be faster and more accurate than me and my little hands. And I can finally start making knives instead of only making and buying tools for knife making. While I drill some holes in this stainless tube, let me show you my design. Well, I say my design, but practically everyone making one of these uses the same design. This is an example from Tyrell Knife Works. However, I made a few changes in my own design based on the materials I had available. The way it works is as follows. The rubber contact wheel acts as the grinding surface. The permanent magnets in the chuck hold the workpiece, and by turning the knob of the translation table, the workpiece is brought towards the contact wheel. Then the chuck is attached to a linear bearing, which enables the chuck with the workpiece to be ground evenly across the whole surface. Very cool, very nice, and would you look at that, the arm has holes in it. To keep the contact wheel in line with the other wheels, I made a little spacer out of some round stock.
Nope.
Then, using a long bolt, I attach the wheel to the arm, and with that I have a contact wheel attachment.
Nice.
This honestly speeds up grinding already, as the contact wheel is way better at grinding fast and keeping your workpiece cooler. After that, I marked all holes and cut out the side arm for the surface grinder attachment. Holes were drilled and the big boy hole got filed out. In order to attach the translation table, I tapped the holes in the... Okay, never mind. I drilled the holes to a larger diameter and I bought longer bolts and nuts. Because of my little hiccup, I had to drill a fifth hole. How nice. Either way, I moved on to the L bracket, in which I also drilled some mounting holes. By the way, if you're wondering, which you're probably not, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, I am currently visiting a friend's workshop, who has some very nice tools and also some very nice materials that I can borrow. Forever. The magnetic chuck is made up of a piece of aluminium, not aluminum, which conveniently was available in my friend's workshop. After my buddy cut the piece to the correct size, I drilled 2 holes for the handle and a bunch of holes to attach it to the linear bearing. Then I had to tap all the holes. Luckily, I didn't break this tap yet, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't scared of snapping this one too. Therefore, it took me at least 30 minutes to tap these holes. Mind you, this is aluminium, which is quite soft compared to stainless steel. So, after I went home and I bought a new M5 tap for my buddy, I also tapped the holes on the sides. After that, I had to cut the grooves for the magnets. Now, normal people would use a mill, but I had to use my trusty old table saw. And it actually went quite alright. It cut very well, and I took my time and it came out as good as I could have hoped for. Final step before pre-assembly is adding a stop for the linear bearing rail so my chuck doesn't fall off. For this I simply drilled an extra hole in the bearing rail and added a piece of tube welded to some thread. Then for assembly, the side arm bolts to the arm with the contact wheel. The translation table also bolts to the side arm. The L bracket is bolted to the translation table. And the chuck is bolted to the bearing rail, as is the bearing stop. I carefully lined up the chuck with the contact wheel before drilling the mounting holes in the L bracket. With that done, I added the handle bracket, which is just a nut welded to some plate. The nut accepts an angle grinder handle. And with that, the whole thing is done. Almost. Because it's very cool and all, but it doesn't have any magnets yet. So I glued those in using some 5-minute epoxy. And I did this in a few phases so the magnets wouldn't pull each other out and create some sort of magnet and epoxy implosion. Then, to create an even surface, I poured some epoxy resin over the magnets, which had to dry for 5 days. By using the attachment on itself, I ground the uneven surface of aluminium and epoxy flat compared to the contact wheel. Now, because my chuck is slightly oversized, it is getting a slight half-pipe shape. Very cool for skating. Oh, alright! But not for flat surfaces. So I added some chamfers to the sides. And with that, the surface grinding attachment is actually done and ready for testing. For testing, I measured the thickness and flatness of a knife I've been working on before and after using the grinder. I measured on several points of the knife, including the tang. Now, during this test I ground for 40 minutes, each side about 20 minutes. Unfortunately, my 40 grit belt was a bit worn out, so I had to use my good 60 grit belt. After the grinding, I measured again at the same spots, which gave the following results. You can clearly see the difference between the before and after. On average, I ground away 0.69 millimeters. Nice. In 40 minutes, which would be approximately 1 millimeter per hour. Now, there are a few things to note. First of all, the afterline is still not completely flat. Also, the top and bottom of the blade are slightly curved. This is because the rubber contact wheel is soft and is compressing. To prevent this, I should lock the translation table and keep grinding until there are no more sparks, which is a long time. Also, 1 millimeter per hour is not the max of this machine. For one, I could use a coarser belt, and I could take deeper cuts. Eventually, most of the time is spent evening out the whole surface. Another feature I haven't mentioned yet is the ability to remove the surface grinding attachment easily to be able to use the contact wheel by itself. All in all, I am very happy with the surface grinder attachment. I'll definitely be using this much in the future. Thanks for watching. If you have any feedback, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. And hopefully not in 2 years.